Hello everyone, welcome back. We have here again the Konica C35 AF. This is the second video that I'm making about this camera, and it will also be the last one. Now, in the previous video you saw that I repaired the camera, I repaired the switch inside. And then what I still needed to do was actually test it if it was working fine. So that's what I did. I first bulk loaded a roll of black and white film, very small one, like only 10 or 15 shots. And I shot that and I developed the film and I scanned it in. And then I decided to do a second roll, but this time a full roll of 36 shots. And again, I had to shoot it, I had to develop the film and had to scan the film. So that took me quite a bit of time to do all these two rolls completely. I'll show you the results in this video. Well, the results are a bit mixed, not really great, but I don't think there is anything wrong with the camera per se. I think it's just the way it works, and maybe not completely suits the type of photography that I am doing with it. Apart from that, I also did a bit of cleaning. Well, I say a bit because there wasn't really a lot of cleaning necessary. It was just some superficial cleaning. Only here on top there was a bit of glue which I needed to remove, and I did that. And in the process I also managed to hit here this sticker a bit with isopropyl alcohol, which immediately removed the gold coloring here on the sticker. So pay attention if you're cleaning a camera which has a sticker like this, then try to avoid it because you'll remove the coloring. Not that much of a big deal, but hey. Yeah, so that's basically it. Yeah, I also decided to replace the light seals inside. So, but I'll show you that as well later in the video. Maybe the best thing that we can do now is have a look at the first roll that I shot here after repairing the camera, and this was the small one. Alright, so this is the first roll that we're talking about here. So as you notice, not a lot of shots. This is Fomapom 200. As you noticed here, some shots are overlapping here in the beginning. That's probably because I did something wrong while loading the film. I noticed after a couple of shots that the film wasn't advancing properly. So I just rolled it back into the canister, loaded it again from scratch, and advanced just a couple of frames. So and then I started shooting as of here. So this really, we can ignore this one. And first thing that you'll notice is that there is quite a bit of difference in exposure. So for example, this one or this one, they are really well exposed, maybe even a bit overexposed. But this one here, for example, is quite underexposed, and the other ones, they are a bit in between. This one is maybe also a bit underexposed. So yeah, the camera was a bit all over the place in its exposure, apparently. For analog film, it doesn't really matter that much as long as you don't underexpose. This one is a bit too light, but for the rest, most of the negatives here are perfectly usable. Alright, so this is the first shot of the roll. And immediately we're off to a great start here because the focus is correct, exposure is correct, and honestly, I also like the composition. So yeah, great start actually. This is the second one, also quite okay. Focus is also more or less correct. So yeah, things seem to be going fine. But yeah, now after this one, things start to get pretty interesting. So this is the third shot I took, and yeah, you can see that it's completely off the focus here. I also immediately noticed when I took the shot that the focus wasn't correct. And honestly, it's not that difficult of a composition, so I don't really understand what went wrong here. So I decided to take the shot a second time, and yeah, again, same result. Focus is completely off. Yeah, that's also something that I noticed with this camera is when it doesn't focus correctly, and you take like exactly the same shot again it won't focus correctly. So it's not that it's like being wonky or completely unpredictable. No, it's really acting in a deterministic way. So if it's not focusing correctly and you take exactly the same shot, yeah, you will again have a bad result. So in this case here, I went a bit closer and I changed the composition, and then the shot was fine. So this picture is quite okay. The focus isn't completely great, but acceptable still. So yeah, you see the camera, it's a bit hit and miss, and in certain conditions it does have difficulties to focus. But the focusing works. It just doesn't work 100% of the time. Yeah, then the next one is really great. There, the camera really focused correctly all the way to infinity, so the sharpness is there. Here, you can also nicely see the sharpness of the lens. So this is a really great shot. So yeah, here the camera really worked perfectly fine. But still, I wanted to test if the camera would also focus correctly on an easy object close by. So I took this one here. Yeah, don't pay attention on the right-hand side of the picture, which is a bit darker. I honestly don't know what happened there. Must have been something went wrong during loading of the film, or I don't know. I have no clue why this dark band here is on the right side. But I focused here on the pole of this field, and that one is really perfectly in focus. So what you also need to pay attention for with this camera, I think it focuses in the center of the shot, but I'm not completely sure how it actually works. So yeah, I just went up close, quite close by to this pole, and it focused completely fine. So, and then there are some other ones remaining on the roll, which I won't show you. Some of are in focus, some not, but yeah, I think I made my point. It's a bit all over the place. So then I thought, yeah, maybe it's me. Maybe I just don't know how to use this camera well. So I went the day to Antwerp last week. I took the camera with me and I shot an entire roll of 36 frames. And let's have a look at the result of that second roll. So, okay, so this is the second roll that I ran through the camera. So this one is a full roll of 36 shots, like you see. And what you can see immediately here is that the exposure is much more even and uniform among all the frames. Don't really have an idea why this is. I didn't change anything on the camera itself apart from some cleaning. The only difference between the two rolls is that although they were both developed in Rodinal, RO9 one-shot developer, this one was developed with a mixture of 1+50 and the other one was developed in a mixture of 1+25. I honestly like the other one better. This one is a bit too light. The negatives, for my taste, are not dense enough, but yeah, they are still perfectly usable. We can also have a look at some of the scanned images of these shots, because again, lots of them were not in focus. The majority was in focus and the majority is usable, but some of them are not. Let me show you how the camera performed here. Okay, so first one of the roll, this is outside the train station in Antwerp, and yeah, immediately completely out of focus. So what I noticed also is that the camera has more difficulty focusing on vertical shots than on horizontal. So the shots that you take in portrait mode, like this one, are a bit more susceptible to being out of focus, is my experience. So here I just took the same shot again on the same place, but this time in landscape mode. And there you see that the shot is perfectly fine. So really focus is completely perfect here. So yeah, there are obviously quite a bit of shots here on this roll. I'm not going to go through all of them. Right at the end of the video, I'll show you a compilation of my favorite ones, of obviously the ones that are in focus. I think like 60% of the shots were in focus. But here now I'm gonna show a bit the ones which were fuck ups basically. So the next one here, yeah, also clearly not great. And again, portrait, so vertical shot. So I don't think it's a coincidence. I think the camera isn't really good at focusing vertical shots. Yeah, here again, a nice example of a vertical shot which is not focused correctly. Oh yeah, by the way, the strikes that you see here running in the length of the picture, yeah, those are scratches that are present on the entire roll. I didn't really took the effort to Photoshop them out. I think must have been something with when which went wrong when bulk loading, or when maybe there is some bit of dirt in the film canister. I don't know, but anyway, the entire roll is scratched, so I need to edit those. Yeah, like I said, this one also out of focus. And again, I noticed it, and I took the same shot, but this time in landscape format, and yeah, again, perfectly fine. So, it's a bit weird, and I think I'm starting to know the camera a bit, but it's still quite difficult to predict with a high accuracy what it's going to do. Okay, so this is a nice example of how you think that the camera might help you when doing street photography, but actually doesn't. Because this was quite a funny moment. I saw this family passing by, and the kid didn't want to walk anymore, so the father had to pick it up and carry it around. And I quickly took my camera and took a quick shot, and I thought, yeah, hey, I don't need to focus, I don't need to worry about any exposure, so I'll get this moment right. Well, no. As you see, the focus is completely off. So I noticed it. I took the shot again, and then the focus was fine. But obviously, the moment was still, yeah, was already gone. So yeah, if you think that the autofocus in this camera will help you with capturing funny instant moments in street photography, don't bet on it. I would suggest you search for another camera. This one is also a pity that it's out of focus. I hadn't noticed it when I took the shot. I thought it was in focus, but apparently it isn't. I really like the composition of this one, but yeah, it's not usable, unfortunately. Here, another great example of a portrait or a vertical shot, which is completely out of focus. So I took the same shot again, and again out of focus. Okay, it's a bit better, but still not great. So then I took the shot again, but in landscape, and yeah, perfectly fine. Um, so yeah, I think I can conclude that the camera has more difficulties focusing when you hold it in portrait mode than in landscape. At least when doing street photography. Maybe it has something to do with the directions of the lines of the buildings or something. I don't know, but there has to be some reason for that. I think it's not a coincidence anymore. It happened me. It happened too often to be a coincidence. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at this for the second roll. As I said, if you want to view the highlights, just stick around until the end of the video, and I will show you some of my favorite shots of both rolls. Alright, so the only thing left for me is now to show you the replacement of the light seals, so let's get straight to it. Okay, so what do we need for this? First of all, some chopsticks or toothpicks to pry out the old light seals, some isopropyl alcohol to clean it up before we put in the new ones, and then obviously new light seals. So I have here 4 different thicknesses, 1, 2, 3 and 4 millimeters, and I'm gonna check which ones I need. Now, for lots of cameras, you can just buy a pre-made kit of light seals online somewhere. You can find in multiple different websites. Lots of kits. You can also find them on eBay. I think if you look well, you should also be able to find one for this camera. But a while ago, I just bought myself some sheets. So then I can do basically any camera that I have laying around. And in the end, you also save quite a bit of money if you can do multiple cameras with these sheets of light seal. and it doesn't these ones, yeah, they do lots and lots of cameras because you really don't need a lot of this foam to change the light seals on a camera. See, so basically we have 5 light seals that we need to replace. One here all the way at the top, on here on the left edge, here on the bottom edge, which also goes here around this indent all the way over there, and then one here on the right side. So those are 4 on the edges of the camera body, and then you have here another one on the hinge of the door, but that one is really on the door itself. See? So you have one light seal over here and one light seal over there, and obviously we need to replace both of these, so it's 5 in total. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. First thing we need to do is to clean out all the old light seals from the camera, because they have been completely deteriorating, and some of them also turn into this gunk or this sticky piece of gunk. Now for this camera they don't not that sticky, so that's already a more pleasant thing to clean up. But yeah, let me get to that first. That's the first thing that we need to do, obviously. Okay, so the worst part is out, but it's far from clean. See, there is still some residue and some glue and some cooked up gunk inside. So I'm now going to use some isopropyl alcohol to clean up everything as nicely as possible. Be careful with isopropyl alcohol on these stickers, because you will ruin them. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit difficult to get inside here with the isopropyl alcohol, but then you can just try to apply it here on top. I hope that it runs down inside in these grooves. Apply it quite liberally, and then with the chopstick you can try to clean them out. See, and it will come out, it just takes a bit of time. Or you can also do it like this. You take a chopstick and you put some cloth around it, some old rag, and then you clean here inside these grooves, and see, it's coming off. It just takes a bit of time. So let me just clean out all the grooves here. It'll take quite a bit of time, I think, before everything is clean, and then I'll come back to the video. Anyway, the most time-consuming part of this work is making sure that everything is nicely cleaned. Alright, so everything has been nicely cleaned. I also cleaned my work desk here a bit because of all the residue of the old light seals that came out. It's pretty important also to keep that clean. The hardest part were here, this bend, this corner over here, and these corners, obviously, here behind the switch here. So this is the switch which resets the frame counter. And then here, also very difficult to clean everything out underneath this flap here. So now it's time to cut new light seals, and I think I'm gonna use the 1mm thickness for nearly everything. So everything here in the channels here of the camera, I'm gonna use 1mm, and then I think here, this one at the side of the door, 2mm I think will fit over here. Originally this was also a bit thicker here, so I'm gonna try to use 2mm here, see if it fits, and then 1mm and all the rest. Now it's also quite important that you don't use light seals which are too thick, because these channels here, they are easily 2 to 3 millimeters thick. But obviously you need to still be able to close the door, right? I have already had in the past that yeah, you really had to force to close the door, and then you don't have perfect film flatness and everything. So the light seals, choose the correct thickness. Don't go too thick. That's quite important. For the top part here, I think I'm gonna need to work in two pieces, because here you have the switch for the reset of the frame counter. And funnily enough, this is exactly the right size. So I'll just cut off a piece of on this side here of the sheet. You really have to put this in and work it really by millimeter. So don't just try to stretch it and put it in like this in one piece. No, put it in really millimeter by millimeter. Because otherwise, as soon as you hit the side with one of the here with one of the edges of the light seal, you hit the side of the channel, then it just flips and you will be gluing it to the bottom or to the top part, not to the really to the bottom of the channel. You will be gluing it to the sides of the channel. So that's why just do it really slowly and really put it in millimeter by millimeter. And then still it's difficult to avoid it hitting the sides of the channel. See, even though it was the correct size, I think I must have stretched it a bit, but okay. Okay, so now we only have this part to do here, and then on the door, obviously. Now, if you do have some small pieces left, you can check if you haven't missed a corner somewhere, and you can glue them in a corner or in a piece where you have like a small piece missing. At the moment, I don't really see anything. Maybe that corner over there, but all right. So now this one here on the door, that's gonna be a challenging one. this is maybe not the best or not the cleanest way of doing it, but I'm just bending here this piece of metal just to make sure that I can get a light seal in between, and then I'm gonna push it back because otherwise it'll never work. See, even now it's not easy to get it in. Now let's push this back. All right, that's in. Awesome. And you can feel the difference when you close the back door. Yeah, that's looking great. So yeah, slightly mixed results here, and as I already said, I don't think it's due to an error or a fault in the camera. I think it's just the limitations of it and the limitation of this quite basic and simple focusing system from the 70s. The shots that I took maybe weren't that suited for this type of camera. I was doing some street photography, but mostly, let's say, architectural related. Maybe that's not the best here. I suspect that this camera performs at its best when you're really taking tourist style pictures, or you're taking pictures of your friends and family at a party or indoors with a flash. Just the classical candid photography or point and shoot photography, I think that'll work pretty well. You'll get acceptable results. Some will be maybe slightly out of focus, but they will still be acceptable. If you really want to use it for artistic photography, where you really want to nail the focus and you really want to have it, behave like you want it, maybe this is not the best weapon of choice. Especially because you can't really direct the camera in any way in what it should do. The only option that you have is taking a couple of shots to have one that is in focus. So maybe if you care about really controlling things exactly, this is not really the best camera. What it is good for, though, is to just quickly take a quick shot. And I noticed that when shooting this camera, my speed in shooting went up quite drastically, because the camera is basically always ready to shoot. You don't have to measure your light. You don't have to focus. You don't have to focus manually. You just point and shoot. So yeah, if you're out on the street and you notice something interesting, you don't really need a lot of time to take the picture. So you hesitate less and you just immediately take the shot, which is honestly a great feature of this type of camera, because it enables you to remove a bit of hesitation in your photography. You just point the camera and you shoot. And then obviously afterwards you check if it is in focus. But with another camera, you might even have missed the shot altogether, or you didn't even attempt to take the shot. So obviously it would have been nice if the shot is then in focus, and I guess that a more modern point and shoot camera will probably perform better in that sense. But hey, it does have its charm, right? And it's a beautiful camera. And I think I might still use it in the future, mainly on social events or at a party or on family events. I might use it. I'm not sure if I will still use it as a street photography camera, definitely not as an architectural photography camera, because when I'm out on the street, I like to take pictures of also buildings and the street life itself. And then it's a bit frustrating if you like to take a picture of a building, you take the shot, you notice it has focused on 1 meter, so you know the shot is ruined, so you take it again, and again the camera focused on 1 meter, so that one will be ruined again. So it can be a bit frustrating if you are just shooting buildings, objects which are stationary. you do have the time to focus if you have a manual focus camera. So it doesn't really make much sense in this type of, if you have this type of camera. But to take portraits, to take indoor shots on a party, I think it's really a really fun toy and a really fun thing to get into analog photography. Also, the lens is really sharp, so I've been complaining now a bit about the focus. But if the shot is in focus, then man, the lens is really nice. It's really, really sharp, and I really like the look and feel of this lens. So that's a plus point, let's say. One other drawback for me, I found it quite annoying that there isn't really a battery indicator. So the only way to basically know if your battery is still working is to cover up the lens with your hand and then press the, semi-press the shutter release so that you get this red light, low light indicator, so then you know that the battery is still working. In the manual they say, if you pop up the flash and it takes longer than 30 seconds for the flash indicator to light, then the battery should be replaced. But this is not really something that you can use in the street to check if your battery is still fine, especially because you don't really notice if you're not using the flash, you don't really notice in the operation that if the battery is okay or not. The camera sounds the same, the shutter sounds the same, it works the same. So that can be frustrating. I think you might run into some issues if your battery dies that you just don't notice it and you shoot an entire roll with a dead battery and you will focus anything on 1 meter distance. So that's a bit annoying, maybe something to pay attention to. Yeah, so that's basically it for this video. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for watching. And hope I'll see you in the next video. It will not be something about photography next time. It will be something different. So stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.